Game lost 15-12. They had a first half lead against Cornell at home last weekend, and then the Big Red going on a run to seal that 13-9 victory, but Brown hanging tight against the #1 team in the country last weekend. Very young attack unit. Here's Ennis Udo, Philadelphia native from Westchester, just outside Philly, product of Malvern Prep. Mateo Corsi, the Syracuse transfer, getting the start at the top midfield today as they work it behind the cage. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, Haverford School product, coming off a hat trick. There's a dodge and an early goal. Mateo Corsi at the top of the formation, and Brown on top 1-0.
I mean, it's a beautiful individual effort here, but I think this starts, I love the way that they came out of this game. They're super conservative the way they were moving the ball, and it's just a beautiful way to get someone up top and dodge one-on-one, and he just makes a nice play at the end there.
Off the wing to scoop the ground ball for Princeton. And now we'll get a look at this balanced Princeton offense. 6 returning starters, and they've been able to mix in some younger guys. Peter Bonanno, the freshman, number 12. Had a 4-point game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and if I'm Princeton, I think I want to make this into, as much of a half-field game as possible. Their offense and their defense are pretty darn good, and I want to try to own the middle of the field.
Tucker Wade doing just that to tie it at 1. The sophomore with goal number 13 on the season. Such a talented sophomore class. It was the nation's #1 recruiting class. And on offense, you've got Burns and Kabiri on attack, and Tucker Wade as good as it gets in the midfield.
He really impresses me. I've watched him, this season and obviously last, but he's so shifty. He's so hard to guard. And when you're a short stick, it's not easy to guard that back and forth. And I just love seeing him be aggressive early on in the game.
Was matched up against the short stick, one of the best in the Ivy League. Udo, the attackman, comes up top, hands off Felix Rockefeller. Luke Delasici wearing number 20. He gets bottled up. Now O'Kane with the shot clock at 25. Back up top. Underneath Molshine, shot with a tumble came in from Wertheim, who's running with the second midfield today.
Oh, he had him.
Shot clock down to 10. Brown still trying to cycle it around. Here's Delasici up top, shot on the goal. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, and Brown back on top. After back-to-back shot clock violations, Brown again showing a lot of patience. Had it down on the turf a couple of times, but able to capitalize.
I know. I think they were pretty opportunistic here, just kind of going at the net and letting a few fly, but they're going to need to do this all day. I love how they're sort of bullying the short stick here, and the simple passes will work. Bump it one more, straight down, overhand.
Corsi, Princeton immediately answered on the goal by Tucker Wade. And then the tally by Brady O'Kane, 7th of the season, his 4th over the past 2 games as they started 3 freshmen on attack. O'Kane against one of the best in the Ivy League in Michael Bath. On a bounce out to the midfield, corralled by Corsi. And he'll look to go to work against Kelly. Corsi, left hand, pass down low, finds its way to Croddick.
He had it too. Princeton's got something.
Tigers in transition up ahead. Here's Friedman, the pole. Cooper Miller, the trailer, goes top shelf, and we're back tied up at 2. Princeton in transition.
Gotta love the up and out. Great job in transition. Nice little bump to Coulter, Mackesy, and then Cooper with a nice high-to-high, just gas down the middle. The matchup is fantastic, and you see Witt in the middle of the field.
3 multi-year starters on the back line. Charlie Cave, Mark Witt, Trey Taylor. Cave last week. It's kind of strange. You can say, okay, the guy you were covering had 4 goals and 5 points, but that's actually significantly under C.J. Kirst's season average. So you get to cover C.J. Kirst, and then your reward for doing a good job is Coulter Mackesy.
And it looks like Brown slipped into a little bit of a zone here, which right as I say it.
Colin Burns takes advantage, and the Tigers have their first lead of the contest, 3-2, 5 goals by 5 different players in the early going.
Yeah, just as I was about to give them praise for slipping into a zone and throwing a little junk, I think Witt just goes upfield a little bit too much. And Burns has just done a great job. He's been hot recently.
Well, and who was Burns looking at? Number 2, Nate Kabiri. They were club teammates. They were high school teammates. They're in their second season playing together. Towards the sideline, it'll stay with Princeton. Cameron was closest.
Kabiri's so slick with that shot coming around the corner. Maybe one more step. You know, he had held the slide long enough where I think he could have gotten one more step to improve his angle. But he's also shown time and time again he can score.
We talked to Colin Burns after the victory last week against Vermont. Had a couple of goals where it didn't look like he had an angle, and I loved his line, you know, did you have an angle? No, but the stick's got eyes. And speaking of having eyes, that's Kramer with a shot. Goal cutting across the center, and then he took some contact. That's Carson Kramer. It's 4-2 Princeton, but Kramer a little bit slow to get up.
Yeah, he took a pretty good hit. But, you know, what I think is actually positive to note about this play, though, is where they're at in the shot clock. So in this era, right, when you start to get under 10 seconds, you want to make sure that you're not giving up transition going the other way. So a lot of times you don't want to go sort of south to north passes. What Kramer does here, though, is he gets it in a really strong Foley into a spot where he's comfortable seeing that type of shot.
Mateo Corsi across midfield. Penalty expires, but offsides. So Princeton will get it right back. Brown was up 1-0. Brown was up 2-1, but 3 consecutive goals have the Tigers on top. And there's Mackesy cutting in transition for the goal. Can't lose track of number 91. There's 4 in a row for the Tigers, and Brown will take a timeout.
Yeah, I think that's we're going to have to see the replay here, but just playing fast.
Coulter Mackesy, goal 155, now 8 behind the Tigers' career leader, Jesse Hubbard. And that's 4 in a row for the Tigers.
Yeah, it looks like Cameron just playing fast. Gets it up to Kabiri, and a great cut by Mackesy, an easy finish.
Also never really been comfortable and feels a lot colder than it actually is. Brown out of timeouts. Let's see what they draw up with 45 left on the shot clock. Here's Aiden McLean. He's got 8 goals in 2 career games against the Tigers. Through Corsi, back up top. Anasudo, the freshman, on attack. Gets a screen. Being lashed at by Spees. The bouncer and the goal. So Brown ends a lengthy scoring drought and some nifty effort by the freshman Enes Udo with his 4th of the season.
Yeah, and it's set up with some backside action, just starting to go at the Princeton defense, but ultimately, you know, it ends up a one-on-one, and this is just pure muscle. He just puts his shoulder down and saying, I'm not going to be stopped.
Enes Udo, he's 6'2", 205. He was Inside Lacrosse's number 77 recruit. Looks a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, that was physically extremely impressive. His chin strap's falling off just a little bit.
So P.J. Bean, who was the one that hit him in the mask, that draws the flag, or that was after the flag.
Yeah, if you're Brown, you got to win that face-off. You know, they had it coming out of the clamp.
Princeton 0 for 1 on the man up. Coming into this one, the nation's top unit, 64.7%. Tigers cycling, stepping in Kabiri, and he capitalizes. Princeton gets that lead back, 6-3 Tigers. Another man-up tally. Princeton now 12 for 19.
Yeah, I think the hallmark of a great man-up is starting in one set and switching to another. So we'll start to see through this. They start in one set and then they start to rotate around. As you do that, you see Sarasort start to crash to the crease. What that does, it brings the rest of the Brown long poles down, and it allows the skip over the top from Burns to Kabiri. Kabiri from that angle.
It's a lot of cage to that list. Michael Sowers, Kevin Lowe, Jesse Hubbard, Ryan Boyle, Coulter Mackesy.
Pretty good company.
Princeton doubling up Brown here at home after the Bears beat Princeton in Providence last year. An upset win over then number 13 Princeton. Here's Saris running with the second midfield line. Did that get over the line?
I think it was in.
Let's wait for the call. The officials will converge. It's just got across the line, and that's a Princeton goal by Saris.
You gotta love that. So we were talking to Coach Madelon before the game about this a little bit, and we said, hey, like, how are you thinking about your midfield lineups? And he said, we're going to throw Braden Saris in there. One is a transfer guy, and, you know, we'll probably see this if we roll it back just a little bit further, but he's done a great job of being in the right spot during the right times. And on that one specifically, he got to the top of the box, transferred it to Mackesy, but he did a really, really slick play. This is probably his Canadian background where he
actually no shots on goal today for Brown after he took 30 shots the previous 2 meetings against Princeton.
So this is a big possession for Princeton. If I'm Coach Madelon, I'm looking at this, but I might call a timeout, maybe not, but purely just to say, let's end this on a high note. Let's figure out a way to make this an 8-3 game.
Peter Bonanno splits the defense, sticked aside, took some contact. Right to Nate Kabiri, comes topside, feet out in front, and they go right back to Bonanno for the top shelf goal. Second chance effort. Pays off for the Tigers, and they're up 8-3, their largest lead of the contest.
It starts with Bonanno just going hard, and he takes a pretty big hit at the end there. I think we'll see it on the replay, but he just goes right down the heart of the defense. Foley, I think, makes a nice play on it, but Kabiri, you know, picking up the loose ball, and Bonanno not giving up on it. Keeping him somewhat quiet, only the 1 goal in transition. Offensively, again, I think they need to think through their spacing a little bit. There's times where things are getting just a little bit jumbled together. When they're able to take runs at their guy and get a step on them, good things tend to happen. And then it's going to be, you know, shot placement with Craddock.
Tucker Wade opened up the scoring for the Tigers, has been pretty quiet since as he hands off to Bonanno in the midfield. Starters back out for the Tigers. Burns, Kabiri, Mackesy on the attack. Palumbo, Bonanno, and Wade on that top midfield line. Nate Kabiri stings it. Make it 8 of the last 9 for Princeton, and it's 9-3 Tigers.
Yeah, they kind of lulled them to sleep on the right side a bit. What I think that Jim Mitchell does a really good job of, he moves players all over the field. That's Kabiri on the left side of the field. So it starts with the 2-man action on the right side, but he starts to lull in the Brown defense, creates a one-on-one.
Against Penn and then home against Yale. Burns in a one-on-one battle against Wertheim, who's stuck on the field. Shot comes in from Wade, backed up. Pretty good second half off the bench. Andy Demopoulos has made 3 early saves here in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, he looks sharp.
Nate Kabiri, 2-man game with his high school teammate Burns, who fires high. Their starting goalie Foley, 6 saves, 9 goals allowed, played the entire first half. And the Tigers able to capitalize, and Princeton makes it 10-3. 7:32 to go here in the 3rd quarter.
We discussed this, I think, at the opener, right, a little bit. I mean, he's just confident, and he goes right at this matchup topside. What he does that I love is goes after his top hands and finish around them.
Another one for Nate Kabiri. He's got the hat trick. Princeton up by 7.
And I think the fact that he actually left his feet, and on the way down the collision happened. So let's see what they do on the man up here.
1-minute penalty, and it is locked in. Princeton, we told you in the first half, the nation's #1 man up unit. They were 1 for 2 in the first half, so the Tigers now 12 for 19 on the season. Came in at 65%. Coulter Mackesy has 5 man up goals. They go to Kabiri, and he goes high to low for the early man-up tally, and still 44 seconds on the clock. What a day by Nate Kabiri, the sophomore. He's got 4 goals and 6 points.
Yeah, another great job on the man-up of changing sets. So they do a little bit of action that we'll see. It was actually started with the fake flip. They kind of started into this sideways 3-3 and then morph into a 1-3-2. Saris actually does a good job of dragging the middle guy.
But decides to tuck it out. Palumbo out in front. There's a shot by Bonanno trying to go low to high. 28 on the Princeton shot clock.
And a heck of a catch. I thought he was going to shoot it backhand. And it would have been the right play.
Nate Kabiri working on a 6-point day for the Tigers. Shot clock down to 15. In the hands of Kabiri, takes it topside, skip pass across the back, and Coulter Mackesie's got another one. Princeton ran the shot clock down to 8 with an 8-goal lead, and they find their leading scorer, Mackesie.
Great execution. I was going to give Brown some credit there because of how they slid and recovered, but it's tough to manage Kabiri, and then on the backside you've got Mackesie. I mean, he just did a great job of dealing with pressure, and then when you get it to someone like Mackesie who can score it, 10 and in, he's pretty automatic.
Junior, here's Mackesie. Short stick matchup against B, and Coulter Mackesie looking for the slide. Princeton just so patient playing with the lead. Mackesie from X, top side, right hand takes some contact from Witt. Now Kabiri, he's got a 7-point day, looking on the crease for Burns. He can't handle it. Cave with the box out. Burns, broken play, comes topside, dives across the front, stays out of the crease and scores. 5-point day for Colin Burns. He has his second goal of the contest.
A little bit of a chaotic possession there. I don't know how many switches there were. I love the way that they attacked people off of the switches, and then just pure hustle from Burns. This was the stuff that we were talking about earlier in the game. That just kind of shows up as a goal on the stat sheet, but making something out of nothing. There's a broken play, and he's able to pick it up, and then takes the harp on it again. These unforced turnovers just kill you. And look, you're in a game up 10 goals, but when you start to get deep into the season, that just can't happen.
Final 40 seconds of the third quarter. Ennis Udo, the freshman, now McLean, who's got just one shot today. Brady O'Kane, the freshman, has one of the 3 goals, and now he's got 2 of the 4 Brown goals as the Bears on the scoreboard for the first time here in the second half, and it comes with 27 seconds to go in the quarter.
Really, really slick play and high degree of difficulty here. Starts with the spacing, and I like how they're attacking the short sticks. If you're Princeton, I think you're saying, hey, we'll give that up. Most times I think Croddick is going to make that, and we're forcing him into a slide. But O'Kane says, I'll do you one better. And that is just an extremely, extremely difficult shot to make. Absolutely. Every team is just littered with talent.
(13-4) Princeton on top of Brown. Andrew McMeekin with the clean face-off win over Dash Sachs, and then has to just throw it back into the midfield for Friedman. If you were the 2 coaching staffs, final 15 minutes, game sort of out of hand, the 9-goal contest, what are you looking for over the last quarter?
Yeah, well, first off, that was a nice little play by Friedman right there. He picks up the ground ball. There's a bit of chaos, and I overlooked it for a quick second, and I thought that was pretty nice.
That was pretty nice as well. Tucker Wade had an early goal for the Tigers. Wade's got his second. And it comes against a new goalie for the Bears, their 3rd netminder of the day, Harry Leferrier, coming in. Good job by Wade, the sophomore.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, but I'm a big fan of his game. I think he is a really tough cover, especially for a short.
Wasn't sure if that was going to be Molshine or Stahl, and it looks like it's the latter.
White foul, number 28, Slash. 1 minute.
So Slash on Stahl as we get a look at the new goalie, the junior, Harry Leferrier. Chatham, New Jersey native out of Avon Old Farms. 17th career game over 3 seasons. You saw the note, pretty athletic family. Got the start last week as they gave the scout team the start, played the first minute in 57 seconds. There's a good look. And that sneaks past Croddick. It's a goal by Rockefeller. And Brown back within 9. Croddick made the initial stop, and it just trickled in.
Yeah, great set here. I think they start in a 1-4, but then on the backside they have some action where the top man sort of carries towards the middle of the field, and then just a simple
outlet.
And a good job by Staten getting in, shutting off the break.
Second midfield line off the sideline. Again, good to see Kramer running out of the box after he's been slow to get up a couple times. Kramer thought about using that 6'5" frame. He'll swing it back out to the midfield with Cameron.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to go off of your point earlier, right before the Wade goal, you know, what to kind of focus on in this last quarter. If I'm Princeton, you know, it's all about our sets.
Colin Burns, he's got a hat trick, so the third different Princeton player with a hat trick today. He's got a 6-point contest with the Princeton lead back up to 10.
And this is it's a pretty simple play by Burns, but it goes back to all the little, you know, fundamentally sound things that he does. His guy sort of turned his head or was giving him, you know, a sliver of light, and all he did was just sort of fill the vacancy. But it's a really nice shot going upfield. Makes it look
a little bit. 4 straight hat tricks. He's got 6 points today. He's got 30 points in not quite 11 games.
That was a heck of a ground ball. I think that was by Behrens. He just picked it up in a crowd, then sort of got assaulted by 4 different Princeton guys and then was able to get it out of his stick.
Somehow maintain the handle. Brown will go to work on the attack. I said third Tiger with the hat trick. Burns has a hat trick. Kabiri's got 4 and another one that trickles in for the Bears, who were trying to make a little bit of a late run. You talked about it. It started with the ground ball, and then they're able to keep it alive. Scandone, the junior from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I'm going to let the clip play for a second.
On the feed from Udo.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Pretty well covered by the defensive midfielder Liam Fairback for the Tigers.
Well, look, it's the right time for the play, too. You know, you talk about coaches who say, you know, the behind-the-back play, it's that he's getting at least 3 lines of midfielders going for this game.
Malkiel out there as well. Kabiri looking for another goal, and that one sniped wide. Kabiri's got 4 goals and 7 points. So Princeton's got 3 freshmen among the 6 on offense. 49 on the shot clock. Vana will reset. Jake Vana, freshman, Boxford, Massachusetts, out of St. John's Prep. Big guy, 6'1", 200 pounds, short stick matchup, turns the corner, and he's got his first career goal. And the sideline erupts.
Yeah, that seems to be a big one for them.
Had an assist earlier in the season a couple weeks ago, and Vana gives the Tigers the 10-goal lead back with his first career tally.
Yeah, and he earned that one. And you know, you can tell how much he probably means to this team, whether it be, you know, he's trying to get up either to the second or first midfield. He's giving, you know, starters looks in practice for a second there.
Here's Malkiel, the freshman, hands off to Cameron. Sean Cameron bumped out of harm's way. Princeton, even with a lot of youth on the field, very, very patient approach on this set. Malkiel, 15 to shoot. Brody Upton, number 6. There's a shot by Kramer, and he's got another goal. Second of the day to go along with an assist by the sophomore Carson Kramer. And Princeton's got a 17-6 advantage, 7:35 to go. Timeout on the field, we'll take it as well.
Yeah, the Tigers just kind of grinded them down here. It changed fields, went through X, and then right at the correct moment made the one more pass, and a great off-speed finish.
Aiden McLean. Princeton now some subs on defense. Kevin Morrow's out there on defense. Another save by Vickery. 2:09 to go, 41 seconds on the Brown shot clock. Wertheim, goal is open, nice turns the corner and scores.
Oh, he paid for it at the end.
Wertheim missed last week's game against Cornell with an injury, and you're right, took some hard contact on the back end of the play to cut it to 10.
Yeah, and I know he's been nicked up, so this makes it an more incredible play, but he beats the double and then pays for it at the end by getting to the front of the net. What an individual effort.
15 goals for Marcus Wertheim, came in tied for the team lead in points with Aiden McLean.